Hey everyone, welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. Today on the podcast, we're talking about the origin story of Capital One's entry into the premium space, including the Venture X card taking on legacy brands, disrupting the space in a way that really only Capital One could. We're talking about emerging lifestyle trends, what consumers are looking for in their rewards card, and how Capital One can continue to innovate. And we're talking about partnerships and how you can make careful choices in collaboration with an eye on what customers are uniquely passionate about, and that can directly impact a brand's growth and customer retention. Please enjoy Lauren Liss. Lauren, welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast. Are you in DC today?
I am right outside of DC in Bethesda, Maryland today.
Oh, perfect. Okay, well, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. Capital One, I have been using your stories in my speeches and my writing for so many years because you guys are such a customer-centric bank, supporting my thesis that so many founder CEOs are the world's most customer-centric leaders too, because you still have your founder CEO in place. So, Lauren, talk to me a little bit about your background. I know you've had a few different experiences in banking and consulting, but for my audience that don't know you.
Yeah, well, first, Blake, thank you so much for having me today. I am super excited to be here. So, to share a little bit of background, I've always just been really passionate about solving problems and solving customer pain points. And so, of course, I started as a consultant and did that for a little while. I was at a competitor of Capital One's for about 8 years, and I have now been at Capital One for 10 years, which is crazy how time flies. But been having a really good experience at Capital One, and I lead a variety of teams here. So I lead our Capital One rewards, our premium card products and experiences, and our marketing.
So I love that your title, it is experiences. So what does that mean for our audience? That, I mean, experiences could mean a lot of things, but what does that mean to you?
Yeah, great question. So experiences encompasses, so many things. And I think specifically on my team, it is thinking about those key experiences that matter most to our customers, especially at the top of the market. And so, you know, customers, as we think about it, the number one reason that they're getting one of our credit cards is usually around the benefits and the rewards. And so we really think about end to end what that customer experience looks like of all of our offerings and making sure that it's a seamless experience for the customer.
Yeah, I mean, Capital One, your contact center. I'm just thinking about your culture. Like all these things are coming to mind with Christina. I can't remember if it was the customer or the agent, but they ended up on the Ellen show because your
Oh,
contact center
right.
sent a customer on vacation because her boyfriend dumped her, and your agent felt sorry for her. She had to cancel her credit card. That's why she called. And so your agent said, "Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, you got dumped. Like we're going to send you on vacation." And she sent flowers to the ex's house to make it look like, and it's a circuitous way to tell this story, but it's a human moment. So I guess for our audience that work at companies that maybe they wouldn't describe their company as having a customer-centric culture, what do you think it is that makes Capital One's culture so customer-centric, just in your experience as an employee for 10 years?
Yeah. I'd say when I first started here 10 years ago, it was the types of examples I would hear where we would look and say, hey, this is an experience where if we did X, you might make some more money, but if we did Y, it's a better customer experience. And we would pick Y. It's really about putting the customer front and center and believing in the long term that is what is right for the business, is doing what's right for the customer. I love the example that you shared. What I love even most about that is it wasn't something we marketed or, bragged about or talked about in PR. It was just something that we did, and it was the right thing and the right way to treat our customers. And naturally, it did create some buzz. And I think there was even some questions internally of like, do we respond to this? We don't want to look like we did it for the buzz. It's truly just about doing the right thing. And then the payoff of that is pretty incredible in the long term.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many examples like that, and you were an early example of just how powerful a human management approach to a contact center can be. What is it that you notice you see managers doing at your bank that maybe they're not doing at other companies that is driving these kinds of stories and this kind of behavior?
I think it's really about listening to the customer and, and doing what's right that is personalized for them. So I'll give an example. It's with our agents. It's not about specifically telling that agent to send the flowers or to, help with the vacation. It's giving them the autonomy to really do the right thing, and to listen to that customer and to do the right thing for them. I think that, it's a hard thing if you don't make it at the core of the culture so that every employee, every person that's talking to a customer can really take that and have that leeway to find the right thing to do in those moments one-on-one when they're interacting with a customer.
Yeah, it seems like some companies really get it and others just don't. But it takes, again, I often see like founder CEOs are the ones that are willing to stick their neck out, maybe give up some short-term money for long-term, uh, I guess value would be the word, to show customers we don't just care about your money. So there's a classic story at Capital One of another customer in the contact center. The customer was going to the funeral of a person that he fought in the Vietnam War with in his battalion, and this customer only had one picture of himself with his friend, with this person, and it was on his Capital One credit card. And so he was really sad that that's the only picture he had, and he didn't have the picture anymore, but it happened to be on his card. So the contact center worked to find this photo, blow it up so they could put this photo displayed at the funeral. These are stories you just don't you can't make this stuff up. You don't hear this in other companies. Are you still hearing stories like this?
I think that's one of the reasons why I think it's so important for our teams, myself, to do these side by sides with agents. It's such a cool experience to go and to listen to customers directly. I mean, you hear these verbatims, but to actually sit there and hear the conversations are really incredible. So whether I'm sitting side by an agent or if I'm in one of the Capital One lounges, it's always just nice to eavesdrop a little and to hear what people are saying about their experiences with Capital One products.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's about. And especially with banking, where it's such an emotional space for customers, but it does feel very transactional. But you have taken a space that is transactional and made it customer focused and more emotional. Let's talk about what you're doing with rewards. Rewards is a whole industry. It's incredible. Some businesses like airlines, they actually make most of their money from credit cards and miles and rewards, not from actually selling airline tickets. I didn't know that until recently. Talk about what your task is with rewards and how you make those customer centric.
Yeah, it's a great question because I think I had mentioned this before, but the number one reason we hear that many of our customers get our cards is because of the rewards, right? And so for them, it's about how they earn their rewards, but really how they use their rewards. And to your point, it's really about their dreams and their aspirations, especially as you think about a lot of our cards, like our travel rewards card products. To them, those trips and those travels are really what memories are made of. They are able to save up their rewards, use them to create just a once in a lifetime experience. And they use them in such a variety of ways. We spend a lot of time talking to our rewards customers. They can use their Capital One miles, whether they're booking, an Airbnb and they want to use their rewards to take their whole family on a vacation, or whether it's, a plane ticket that they're taking to go visit a friend. It's just really cool to hear what they're saving up these rewards for, and using them to create these just really special memories.
So, what kinds of emerging lifestyle trends are you noticing with all generations, but especially like the younger generations? Are they also excited about these rewards programs?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting time, right? Because I think you think back a couple of years ago, a few years ago now to COVID, right? And during that time, people had a bunch of rewards, especially with these travel rewards cards. and they weren't traveling as much, right? And so, I think back then, and we made some changes to our program real time to allow people to use their rewards for things that mattered to them then. And so back then, that was things like streaming and food delivery, because those were the perks in life. But now we're in this era. First, we thought it was like revenge travel, maybe right after, where they were getting back out there and they were using these travel rewards like never before to take these incredible trips. Uh, and now in what I would call like the post revenge travel, or whatever we want to call it, they're continuing that travel, but maybe how they travel has changed. There was this period where they were, especially some of the younger generations, were traveling and working almost like leisure, where they could work anywhere and travel anywhere, and so that's how they were traveling. I think what we're seeing now is a lot of people are back to the office. There's a lot more, working from offices and then back to kind of traveling for fun and using these rewards again for these, incredible types of experiences. And I think the word rewards, it's not just always the actual points or cash back rewards you're earning. There's this whole ecosystem of the benefits that you're also getting beyond just the rewards points. So, you are using your Capital One Venture X card to take a trip, and now you have expedited, TSA pre-check or global entry at the airport. You have the access to an airport lounge so that actual trip is more enjoyable. And in the past, I think a lot of those offerings were really geared more towards one type of traveler. So maybe an airport lounge was geared towards a more predominantly male business traveler.
It is odd when you go into those lounge. If you ever go into an international lounge, it's like all dudes, all men. You're like, this is so weird. No
Well,
offense.
and so for me, like I thought it was interesting because I travel a lot, but right, like sometimes I'm traveling with my two kids. Sometimes
Mhm.
I'm traveling for work. Sometimes I'm traveling with some girlfriends. And so back to the customer need, an airport lounge does not just need to serve one customer. If I'm there with my kids, I need food that like they eat as well. I've
Yeah,
seen, mothers that are using the mothers' rooms in lounges. I
yeah.
never thought I would see that. And so it's around these rewards and benefits that we can offer to all different types of customers.
But can we just level set that travel today is crazy expensive? We're recording this, let's just February 28th of 2024 for our audience. And I have friends, they're waiting to book trips. And then like the next day, they don't book it. The next day, the trip is like $1,000 more. And it's just a really crazy time with the economy. So are you seeing any trends with regard to how customers are trying to get around these like crazy travel fees?
We have created Capital One Travel. And so some of the examples there are tools that we have like Price Watch so that we can help predict the best time to book a trip. And I've heard really good feedback on that given the environment that we're living in. I think rewards is another one. It almost feels like you're treating yourself. And so, maybe the price has gone up, but maybe you want to take that special trip, but you're using some of those rewards, and it feels like a place that you're treating yourself. But really, I still think people are traveling. I think they're using smart digital tools to keep their eye out for the right tracking and also the right guarantees. And then, and then treating themselves sometimes with those plus ups.
Can I ask how old are your kids?
So I have a 9-year old. She would kill me probably if I didn't say 9.5, and a 4-year old son. So two very different ages.
Yeah, I have a 3.5-year-old and a
Okay.
7.5-year-old. We're going to Disneyland for the first time all together, and I love that you're just talking about, like, the modern customer, like, who is he or who is she? And now we have to think about experiences just in, like, what is the modern customer going through? What does his or her life look like? It could look a lot different than we assume, but it just seems to me like the only way you would know is if you ask, right?
Exactly. I mean, I really think back to my point of like side by sides with call agents, listening when I'm in the lounge. It's super cool to just listen to the customer. One of the reasons I originally came to Capital One, speaking about Rich, who, is still our CEO and one of our founders, is just around this data orientation that we've always had. So we started out, about 28 years ago with the ability to give credit, maybe to folks that weren't able to get credit before. and using our data to be able to do that and really being at the forefront of this innovation. And what I think has been so incredible is this combo of quantitative and qualitative data. So you can look at all the data, but you also have to be talking to all of your customers and listening to them. And then bringing those two things together, I think is what makes Capital One really special as we think about what the right offerings are for the modern customer, staying on top of that data, staying on top of talking to our customers and listening to them.
So I'm really glad, Lauren, that you mentioned qualitative data and quantitative data because, there's so much talk about data and all the amazing things we can do with data. But what I get really excited about is when I hear about CEOs or leaders like yourself that are actually going to where the work is done. I call it flipping burgers next to employees, like CEO of Starbucks who commits to working in the coffee shops at least once a month because there's nothing like being where the action is happening and then getting real insights, just hearing from the customer exactly what they're going through. It seems to be different. So but let's actually talk about data a little bit. Like, what kinds of data are you looking at? What's getting served up to you, and what are you looking for in the data?
Gosh, there's so many types of data, right? I think there's so much external data that we continue to keep our eye on. There's clearly the data we see of our current customers. And really, as we think about it, it tells us so much about a customer's life. Like you were talking about how credit cards can feel so transactional, but it's really at the center of our lives. It's everything about our day, right? Like, from where I wake up and get my morning coffee to, my gas to the point you were saying of the trip you're taking with your kids to Disneyland. There's so much data there, right? Of when you're traveling and how you're traveling and how often you're traveling. And it says so much about you. Now, I do agree the qualitative on top of that brings so much more color than you could ever get just from the data. So I think both aspects of it are incredibly important as we make decisions for our customers.
Yeah, it's interesting, really, if you zoom out and you think of what the role of a bank is, and you think about rewards, and you think about a bank offering experiences, because there have been many trips that I paid for with miles or rewards.
Yeah.
The bank becomes so much more than just a place that manages your money. It's a place that manages like the fun times, and it's shopping in a way. It's like you're shopping at the bank because you're going through the bank's platform to pick what hotel you're staying at or what airline you book with. It's really kind of interesting if you think about it.
Yeah, it is. And it's one of the things we thought about a lot. We launched a new credit card, Venture X, a couple of years ago. And one of the things we were thinking about was as we designed the product, what our customers wanted. And so to your point of, even going through Capital One Travel to book your hotel, one of the things that we really spent a lot of time thinking about was making sure customers didn't feel like, oh, I have to use, Capital and Travel to book my hotel and get these 10x rewards. Really seeing it as an and. Like I can book through Capital and Travel. I can get this great hotel at 10x rewards and get a better experience. So things like price watch on my flights, things like being able to last minute cancel my flight in an easy way, just super easy, intuitive digital tools. And so we want to see it as a value add versus a blocker that have to go through.
Yeah, it seems like that was some of the silver lining of COVID, where in the past it was really hard to cancel things, change your flight, cancel your hotel. Now, I mean, it is an interesting time because some hotels are going back to we're going to charge your card. You have to pay extra if you want to be able to cancel last minute, but companies have just had to be more flexible with customers, and customers in a way like force companies into it.
And I think flexibility has really always been at our core. So you talked a little bit about redeeming for these types of trips. One of the things that we offer on our cards is what we call purchase eraser. And so you could book any flight you want, any hotel, no blackout dates, and you just erase it on your statement. It's like the ultimate flexibility versus I have to book with one program. A lot of what I hear from customers and even my own friends is they no longer want to be tied to just one program. Sometimes they want to stay at an Airbnb. Sometimes they want to stay at a boutique hotel. and just being able to stay wherever they want, depending who they're traveling with and how they're traveling, and not feeling like they have to be tied to just one rewards program. So I think that is a benefit as I think about the direction of just more flexible types of rewards programs.
Do you think rewards programs are the future of travel and the future of the customer experience?
I think they've always been such a core part of the experience that I think they will continue to be the future. And I think they will have to evolve in the future. So I think I see more flexibility. I see for a lot of the customers, they are just overwhelmed with the amount of programs and just the amount of things. Like talking about the modern customer, and you talked about, let's just talk about us, as we talked about our kids a little and life being busy.
Mm.
This currency of time, this currency of how do we make it simpler? And so I do think the future has to have more flexibility, ease, in more of an intuitive customer experience, because people's lives are just too busy to be tracking millions of coupons and tons of gotcha type benefits. So I think the future of these programs just has to evolve and continue to change.
Yes, gotcha marketing or where customers feel duped. This is the biggest customer experience mood killer. And I think what you're talking about, like simplicity, brevity, just being the source of making the customer's life easier and better, simplifying the customer's life. This is really a breath of fresh air for the customer because rewards programs, I mean, there's so much fine print. It feels like, yes, so many of these companies, there's always a catch. Like customers don't really trust them. It's like, oh, you're giving me free points. Like, what's the catch? Like, this is obviously going to cost me something.
And then they're trying to squint and see, like, wait, does the fine print say if I don't use it in the first month, it won't roll over? I think really we think a lot about being really straightforward and ensuring that it's super easy to use your rewards. I'm going to bust a myth. One of the things I've heard from customers, not necessarily our customers, just talking to a lot of folks and even friends, is that maybe they think we don't want them to use their rewards. I'd say it's quite the opposite. We want people to use their rewards. We want people to use their benefits. We hear such great feedback when people do use our rewards and our benefits that, back to kind of our initial conversation, in the long term, we just think that creates this loyalty and this, wanting to stay with Capital One because we've created these great experiences. So we definitely do want people using their rewards and their benefits on their products.
Just in closing, because we're reaching the end of our time of the formal interview, what would you say to leaders that want to be more customer centric? Like, what has worked for you as you've moved up the ranks in your role at Capital One? Like, what would you recommend that they start doing if they want to be a more customer centric leader?
So one we talked about a bit, but I would say looking at their calendars and making sure that they never get too far from the customer. So finding ways to consistently hear from the customer. So whether that is quarterly side by sides of listening to customers calling in, whether for us that's our physical spaces of our Capital One cafes or our Capital One lounges, of going there and listening to what customers are saying, but really finding the time and the way to stay connected to that. And I'd say too, just really thinking about where the leverage is. It's so easy to get caught up in so many things that you can do for your business. And so I'd say it's staying really centered on what is going to make the biggest impact on the customer and focusing there. Easier said than done, but I think if you really stay true to listening to the customer and then knowing where that leverage is to make the biggest impact, the outcome of that can feel really meaningful and create loyal customers.
I love that. I think that's really great. How about taking some rapid fire? Does that sound good?
All right, let's go.
All right. What is the most important part of your morning routine?
Okay. I mentioned I have a 4-year-old, and I'm going to say he has this thing right now where he likes to open the door for me when I leave for work. And so
Aw.
I just love that part of my morning routine as I'm off to work, but get a chance for that super sweet goodbye.
That is so cute. Okay. Well, what do you do to relax at the end of a hectic day?
I would say some mindless television is sometimes all that you need to disconnect.
Well, that leads me to my next question. What show are you currently streaming right now?
Gosh, I'm streaming. What am I streaming right now? Speaking of mindless television, there is a show out right now and I think it's called One Day. I'm forgetting it's on Netflix, but it is about every year on the same day following this couple. It's a bit of a rom-com, but I like the premise of it.
All right. And what's your idea of perfect happiness?
I think life is incredibly short and it is about creating a meaningful impact and loving what you do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What is one mental health strategy for managing hard days?
I think sometimes it is putting the phone down and taking a walk. Sometimes just taking time away is when I come up with my best ideas and my best thoughts. And that can be hard to do when you're jumping from meeting to meeting and you need to just take a breath, get some fresh air and ground yourself.
What's your favorite type of vacation?
Different vacations at different times, but right now I am going to say a vacation on a beach with some relaxation. Again, I think some of my best ideas and clarity comes from that chance to reboot.
And if you could have lunch with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
So right now I'm going to have to say Taylor Swift. For me, I just think that I don't know how she does it all. It is pretty incredible how hard she works. And I think she is a great role model for a lot of young women out there. And so I'd be super interested. I don't know how she'd squeeze me in for lunch, but that would be my pick.
Okay. And lastly, if you had to describe your outlook, Lauren, in one quick motto, what would it be?
Life is short. Hug your loved ones and enjoy your life. I don't know
I
if
like
that's the best
that.
one.
No, that's good. It's not an easy question, so I think that works really well. Well, Lauren, this has been really fun. Really nice getting to know you. I really appreciate you being here. If our audience want to sign up for a Capital One rewards card, this might be obvious, but where can they do that?
Go to Capital One, check out our products. There are people always ask me what's the best one, and I'd say it's picking the best one for you because I really do think there are a bunch of great products there.
Well, everybody, you've been tuning into the Modern Customer Podcast. Thank you for watching and listening. Until next time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on social media, including LinkedIn, Instagram, and X.